the founder and the director of Mdakane Attorneys, the one and only Bongani Mdakane. Thank you so much for joining us.
What an intro. Thanks.
And tell us more about how the people at the Black Coffee Foundation, sort of called you up. Who called you? What were you doing? Because that is like next level.
Yeah. Well, I just got an invite. And basically, a publisher is someone that takes care of your composition and they create opportunities for your composition. There's 2 copyrights in a song.
Yeah.
Another important thing that we must start with, I guess, there's 2 copyrights in a song. There's copyright in the master and there's copyright in the composition. Well, there's been an instance where I was acting for a label that was trying to enforce its agreement with a certain artist. And the artist was not hearing it. They just wanted to leave. And, we had to do takedowns. Take the music down, the new music that they were recording, because they were infringing on the exclusive. Yeah.
Hectic. Okay, cool. So this is the part I've been really looking forward to in terms of this conversation, because I'm going to give you some issues that have really happened, like factual issues, and I'd like to hear your opinion on them based on obviously like your knowledge, right? And you can tell me, can I say names?
No
names. Okay, cool. All right, I'll respect that. Now, we're all about sharing the facts and teaching the tricks. Let's talk all things about music, the life of music. Let's engage about the rhythm. Let's talk about our passion for melodies, sound, and those beautiful classics. Let's get educated about these decibels we oh so dearly love. On this podcast, we talk about these politics. Welcome to Music Politricks. Dumelang, ekse nakalina ke nabusi baba khulu baba dese bareke the queen of Pitori. Welcome to another episode of Music Politricks. This is where we learn everything there is to learn where music is concerned. We are here to get the right guests so that they can, of course, share all the facts and teach all the tricks. A big shout out to everybody on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and to you on YouTube as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, do the right thing, subscribe, because most of you who are actually watching are not subscribed. All right, this is free knowledge, so you know exactly what to do. I get. Now, we're bound to have a super interesting conversation today. Right? One of the best in this country when it comes to entertainment law, intellectual property, and copyright when it comes to the entertainment industry, predominantly the music industry. The founder and the director of Mdakane Attorneys, the one and only Bongani Mdakane. Thank you so much for joining us.
What an intro. Thanks.
I
had no objections.
How you doing?
Well, and yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. Like, we've been meaning for this to happen.
Yeah,
and I'm so grateful that, you actually made some time, because I know that you're quite busy, man.
Yeah. Look, I'm a great fan of the podcast. So
thank you.
As soon as I heard that it's you, I knew we need to make it happen.
Jeez, that means so much to me, because Ejo and I like only big fish. So so I'm really grateful.
Thank you.
What does your typical day look like? I mean, you're a lawyer, you're specializing in the entertainment industry. It's not often that we actually come across entertainment lawyers.
Yeah. So it's opening your emails and being met by a barrage of emails, of course. I was just doing a takedown this morning.
Okay.
There's a client who her works are being infringed on DSPs and so forth. I registered a trademark before I came here.
Sure.
Yeah. What else? Oh, I got instructions to draft a contract. So it's usually those stuff. Look, I do other areas of law. This is obviously my favorite. It's my main area of law.
Sure.
So yeah, that's typically what my day looks like.
And I guess other areas include commercial law as well.
Of course. Commercial law, even family law. It's that's another surprisingly busy area of my practice. But from a positioning point of view, from a passion point of view, and from an experience point of view, this really is my forte.
Okay.
Yeah.
Zulu man from Bethlehem. Okay. How is it like growing up? I mean, what are you exposed to? What are you listening to? Because seeing as the music space is one of your favorite things.
Yeah. So I was raised by a music lover. My old man was a music lover through and through.
Yeah.
You wake up on a weekend, it's the Commodores playing, it's Prince playing, it's Michael Jackson playing, so obviously that influenced me a great deal. I'm not your typical guy. I don't watch soccer.
Okay.
I don't care about cars.
Okay.
I'm just about the arts.
That is so cool.
Yeah, yeah. And it's because of that upbringing, So I think it obviously influenced where I am now with what I do, because I've always wanted a way to contribute to the industry somehow.
Yeah.
But I have no viable talents, really. Creative ones.
Yeah. But look, Michael Jackson played a very big role in your decision to get into this industry.
Yes.
Tell us more about that.
So that's who, out of the people that my dad used to play, that's who really made an impact on me. That's who I latched onto, He's everyone who knows me will probably, when Michael died, I got a call as if I was, a family member or something. That's my guy, that's my dude. And obviously through that, I'm able to appreciate other music as well. But him being such a constant in my life, really, there was no other, what can I say? There was no other area I could go in terms of law, because there are different areas of law.
Sure.
Yeah. So this one was the one that I always wanted, that I knew would not feel like work to me. Yeah.
Okay. So you always knew that you'd be an entertainment lawyer.
I always knew that I wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did your parents take it? Because I mean, parents normally, when you get into the entertainment industry, they get a little bit of a
Yeah.
all right, but of course, you are a professional, you are a lawyer.
Yeah.
However, the interest is mainly entertainment law.
Yes.
So how did that conversation play out?
Well, let's say this. By the time I got into the entertainment industry, I was already a lawyer for 5 years.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Sure.
So it wasn't easy getting into that. So I was fortunate enough to get a break at SAMRO. They were looking for a legal advisor. And I
Nice.
applied and I got the job. To them, but to Baba Holu, to them, it's just a job. Oh, you're employed. Oh, okay, sharp. Let's more. It's music. They collect royalties for. You're employed though. You're happy. Okay, sure. So I don't think they had a real appreciation of it. Yeah. So it was just a job to. You're still a lawyer, and you're saying you're working for. So who right?
Okay.
So it wasn't a hard thing really by then.
I mean, congratulations, because you are on the panel for the Black Coffee Foundation.
Thank you.
And you've done an incredible job in branding yourself as this entertainment lawyer. Before we get into the panel discussion that you had at the Black Coffee Foundation, how did you actually go about doing that? So that Harobona, when we see your name, we automatically align you with entertainment law.
Well, knowledge sharing of information. There's a gap anyway. There's a big information gap.
Yeah.
And, I'm passionate about spreading the information, because if the practitioners of this industry that we love so much don't understand it, what type of industry do we have? In any other industry, the people know exactly, what to do, how to do it. So I've always felt that there's a gap, and I've enjoyed sharing that information. And I see that people share a lot of that content, and as a result, it has resulted in the type of exposure that I was looking for my firm.
That is very cool,
yeah.
actually. Hey,
Yeah.
And tell us more about how the people at the Black Coffee Foundation, sort of called you up. Who called you? What were you doing? Because that is like next level.
Yeah. Well, I just got an invite. I got an invite. I'm not going to say from who, but it's from the foundation. I got an invite, and I moved everything to make sure that I'm there.
Yeah.
Obviously, so yeah, that was great. I was very honored to be there. Was I do a lot of panel discussions, but you could see that with the people there that okay, this is black coffee. It's very different.
Yeah.
From the other ones. So the people that were there, a lot more established people, a mixture of established and non-established people. So it was great. It was a great experience.
What are some takeouts that you saw and you realized during the various discussions you had?
Well, even at that level, people still want to learn, and there's a lot to talk about, in the industry, a lot of misconceptions, and even at that level, people still want to know, the basics.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were still asking about the basics from a collaboration point of view. I remember this girl put up her hand, and she was let me try to remember the question. She was concerned that the DJ that she collaborated with doesn't want her to perform the song.
Hectic.
Yeah, but they collaborated on the song together, and she wanted to know if he can be able to stop her. Things like that. So
What's the answer to that question?
the answer is basically no. I mean, you can even sing a cover version of a song, and the venue in which the song is being performed, they'll make sure that they'll collect, the royalties due to the composers,
Yeah.
and pay them.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult to police someone from, performing, a certain song.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
For real.
yeah.
And people throw around words like distribution. And I feel like that's because of Boma Apple Podcasts, or rather Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify. We have a bit of an understanding of what distribution is. But also like a word like publishing.
Yeah.
What is publishing? What is distribution in the actual sense?
Yeah. People get those confused a lot. So distribution is basically, companies that take your sound recording and place it within the different DSPs, right? Digital service providers. That's how they do it. Initially, when we were still in the physical era, they would physically deliver the product to the retailers.
Yeah, but music,
Exactly.
sure.
Yeah, that's the exact same thing happening, but on a digital scale now.
For sure.
Yeah, and basically, a publisher is someone that takes care of your composition, and they create opportunities for your composition. A publisher, as a publisher, I can put you in certain rooms, for your compositions. For example, as a publisher, if I create a writing opportunity for you to write on Taylor Swift album, that's different. It's going to look very different from you from a royalties perspective.
Okay.
Writing for Taylor Swift as opposed to writing for your local artist. So that's what a publisher does. They put certain opportunities in front of you, where it can also be licensing opportunities, like in movies or in adverts and stuff
Okay,
like
cool.
that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So they create opportunities to sort of magnify or for you to reach more people.
Your compositions as a writer, they take care of you as a writer.
As a writer.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So now, if you're not a writer, what happens then in a sense of publishing?
Well, if you're not a writer, you're not going to need a publisher, because like people like you, the likes of Whitney Houston, she had an amazing voice, incredible voice, but she didn't write much.
Yeah.
Tina Turner, the same.
Sure.
You can tell by the examples. I'm an old guy. Yeah.
Sure, man.
I was at a conference in Bloom, and this girl said, "Can't you make like recent examples like Drake or something?"
Hey, I get it.
What do you expect from a guy who grew up listening to Michael Jackson and Prince and all of those guys?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Okay.
So you wouldn't need a publisher because you don't write your own songs. You see. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Very interesting, because I mean, someone like Msaki has a career as a songwriter. Like, majority of what she's always done is just songwriting.
Yes.
So
Yes.
her publishing, I guess, is a very important conversation.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how would you define what copyright is?
So copyright, to make it as basic as possible, it's basically a set of rules that are there that say what's going to happen to your creation, you know, and its main purpose is for creating, exclusivity over that creation, and you deciding how that creation is going to be used, by others.
Okay.
So it gives you those sole rights to that creation.
Okay.
Put very simply.
Okay, so I mean, in the sense of music, I would think that because like back in the day when people were like creating concepts and proposals, people would be like, yeah, if you want to make sure and prove that this is actually yours, you need to email it to yourself. But in the sense of music, I mean, how do you then ensure that you are the one or who owns the copyright? I mean, is it a situation of Samro? How does it all work?
Yeah, look, with Samro, there's a misconception that if you need to register the work with Samro, then the copyright comes alive, which is not true. Samro, and that's why we should probably stay away from the word registration. It's notification. You're notifying Samro that you've got a work, a composition, and it's playing, and they will look at where it's playing and they'll collect the royalties for you, right? So your copyright comes into being upon creation. Yeah, you don't have to register it anyway. We don't have a registry anyway in South Africa, except for films.
Okay.
Yeah, but otherwise we don't have a registry. Your song comes to being at the point of creation.
So how do you then prove that this is
It's a-
actually my work?
It's a factual thing. It's gonna have to be a factual thing. On a case by case basis. We're gonna have to, look at the respective works and see if it's if in the event of an infringement,
Okay.
to see if when that is in fact your original work.
What are some of the common things you've come across in terms of copyright in your line of work?
Well, people sometimes don't protect. Not sometimes, they don't. They don't protect their works. A split sheet is the most.
DreamStream, a place to create yourself. Record video, music, and podcasts in our full-service studio. Record video, music, and podcasts in our full-service studio. DreamStream, a place to create yourself.
Basic of basic contracts you can have in the music industry. You don't even need a lawyer for that.
Yeah.
Samro has a free split sheet on their website. You can literally print it out, but people are still failing to sign those basic contracts. Yeah, and that's the basic. It's not the only thing you have to sign in a collaboration, which is part of one of the issues that I have with people. But at least get that one out of the way. And by way of definition, a split sheet is basically a contract that sets out between the composers, their respective share of the copyright, in a song. Because more often than not, you haven't created the song alone, unless if you're R. Kelly or someone. But most songs will have up to 4, 8 composers at a time.
Yeah.
So usually people are just lax about it until it becomes a
Real
hit,
thing. Ish.
and then the ish hits the fan.
Ish, ish. And how is something like that resolved? I mean, sure, the reality is that maybe an artist doesn't actually have a split sheet. Then what?
Look, it becomes, like I said, it becomes a factual thing. Then we look at, did you ever record the splits anywhere else? Maybe you sent each other messages on WhatsApp to say, hey, we're going to share it like this, which is a completely enforceable thing. Yeah. Otherwise, we just settle. But now, when we settle after the fact, the leverage has changed because the song is a hit now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas I was quite happy to take the 10%, which I was entitled to. Now I know the song is a hit, and you know what? I want 20% now.
But who's settling who?
Parties are going to have to sit down for the greater good of the song to settle. which becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so tricky.
Very, very tricky. And I was saying, and I know it's something very wild for me to say. I started saying that I started looking at these previews differently that people do, the live previews.
Yeah.
Because now you're giving the song some legs.
Yes.
And you're still at the point where you're in studio. Now that thing runs away, becomes a hit. Now the leverage changes between the parties, you know?
Yeah.
Now the party probably wants maybe a share in that master. And initially they weren't coming to do that, you know? So I'm starting to look at the lives. And I know I must be very careful because I don't want to mess with the marketing aspect of it because it does work.
Yes, it
provably.
does. Yeah.
We've seen it work. But let's balance that as well. Is there a world where we can at least provisionally agree on what we're going to do in terms of the splits and whatnot before we broadcast that live? Yeah.
I get that because now it's a hit before it's released.
You see what I mean?
Eish.
Yeah.
Eish.
And we have it happened. I'm just not going to say the names.
Yeah,
It happened.
yeah,
And I'm not casting aspersions on any of the parties. Well, I don't know what happened there, but I'm just saying it's a real life example of how a song that is already released in one of these lives can cause problems in the absence of an agreement.
And I love that you're touching on agreements because there are different types of agreements. You know, there's if you're a featured artist, there's an agreement for that. There's a producer agreement. Tell us about the different types of agreements that should exist.
I would say those ones, the ones that you just mentioned, what often happens for the people that are reasonably diligent, they do then sign a split sheet, but a split sheet only. You see where the problem is. Now, Pella, there's 2 copyrights in a song.
Yeah.
Another important thing that we must start with, I guess, there's 2 copyrights in a song. There's copyright in the master and there's copyright in the composition. If I've signed a split sheet only, I've only made provision for the composition part of the copyright.
What is the composition?
Okay, the composition is basically the lyrics, structure, and melody of the song.
Okay.
Right. And then the master is what we call the sound recording. It's the recording in which that composition lives. So
Okay,
if you,
cool.
if you start singing right now and I record you, what you sang is yours because you came up with it.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
But this recording, if I start recording you now and I paid for making this recording, I'm the one that gets to decide. Remember definition of copyright? I'm the one that gets to decide what happens with that master.
I see.
That recording.
I see.
Yeah, yeah. So now you've just signed a split sheet and you've just spoken to the composition aspect of it.
Yeah.
You haven't spoken to anything else. So yes, when you buy a beat, don't just give the guy 5,000 or 2,000 because when it's a hit, he's gonna come after you. Get a nice, comprehensive producer agreement where the producer specifically says that he assigns the master to you, transfers the master to you, because it was his. He did it in his studio and whatnot.
Yeah.
You must have an agreement that says that he transfers that master to you, and maybe he might want to get producer royalties. It's a percentage of the sales that is generated from the master.
I see.
He might also want a piece of the composition part. Record that nicely in a producer agreement. You're good to go. Again, you mentioned featured agreement, featured artist agreement, very important. Record exactly how much first record is going to own the master. Yeah. Usually the primary artist and their label will want to own the master.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they've paid for that. And when they're just getting rights for your performance to be featured in their master, right? But they'd also need a payment. So set out the percentage in which they get from sales from the master side. Obviously, if the featured artist wrote, they'll want a percentage of the composition, but that was sorted out in the split sheet.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So also set out some people what they do. They'll have an agreement setting out the splits of the master as well,
Okay.
but they'll leave it there. But now I don't know how often I get paid. You know, yeah, and a featured artist agreement must say how often, maybe quarterly, maybe monthly, maybe biannually. It must say how often I'm paid, and it will usually provide for things like credit, which becomes a huge problem.
These are like now advances.
No, no, no. So credit is how when you see the song being
Oh,
written.
as in like being credited on the song. I
Yes,
hear you.
yes. You know, Busi featuring Bongani. I want to see that.
Absolutely.
You know, some people leave that out, and it becomes a huge thing. And the featured artist now is shortchanged because the whole reason why they wanted to do the song is to be featured next to you because your name means something.
Absolutely.
Now you failed to credit them. You know?
Eish.
So when you've got an agreement that has specifically recorded the credits and the specification that the credit must take, because we can't just say credit, we must agree to the T how we want that credit to look like, you know. So have that as well. And audit rights, this is a big one. I need to see how much I get it when you're the master owner. So the distributor will pay you directly and you must account to me. But there's a visibility problem there at times.
So people are just not transparent about that kind of information.
Exactly. So sometimes I may need to audit you. So I want a clause in there as well, speaking to the audit rights as well.
And what do you then provide? Let's say you did actually agree to being audited. What is it that you provide to ensure that there's transparency?
What you received from the distributor.
Okay.
Yeah.
In its original
Yes.
form.
Yes. Yeah.
This thing is tricky, eh?
Yes. So can you imagine the gap you're leaving if you're only agreeing to the splits? Yeah, we agree to the splits. We're fine.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. It's not nearly enough.
Yeah. You're even just scratching the surface.
Exactly.
There's something called re-recording restriction.
My favorite topic.
Tell me more about that, because I mean, the assumption just by hearing the term, you can hear that you are now re-recording a project, a particular song. But for sure, that is some form of implication on people who were involved in the creation of the original project or song.
So basically, why a re-recording clause is so controversial. When you record the song, you own the master to that recording. I'm going to make an old school example again. Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You. It's originally Dolly Parton's song.
Yep.
But when Whitney recorded it, Whitney's label, Arista, I think, Arista owned the recording. Dolly will always own the publishing, the composition to that, because she wrote it.
Sure.
But now Whitney has created a new recording, and Whitney's label will own that new recording. So now there's two masters. Can you see why if you go and if you're signed to me exclusively and now you go do your own recording, can you see how your master now undermines mine?
Yeah.
I've invested in you
Yes,
as a
absolutely.
label. So now what happens is that I as a label will put a restriction on you re-recording the song.
Okay.
I'll say, don't record this song for at least 6 years after our deal ends.
Okay.
Because I need to sell the recording that we did together exclusively without you competing with yourself in the market. Yeah. So how it then became into the mainstream, this thing, Taylor Swift had an issue like that.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, okay, I'm just going to wait for my re-recording restrictions to lapse. And she waited it out and recorded all those albums and made a killing.
Yeah. Smart move, I must say.
Yeah, doesn't always work. Not everyone is Taylor Swift. You'll be surprised at how many re-recorded works are there in the market. I was listening to Boys to Men. I think it was 4 Seasons of Loneliness or something. And the ad-lib sounded a bit different. And I was like, no, what version is this? I checked it out. They had re-recorded it. Yeah, a lot of people are doing it, but it's just not having the same impact as your Taylor Swift's.
What is the impact of re-recording on the label?
The impact is that now they have two products that are competing, but they don't own the other one. And it's the same product by the same artist. Yeah. So if I'm selling Taylor Swift. I want to make sure that I'm the only person selling Taylor Swift. That's why a lot of music agreements are exclusive.
Yeah.
You are exclusively signed to me so that it can give me a chance to make my money back in selling this process. Now you're creating another version.
Like,
You know?
how, Sway?
You see, so from a business perspective, it makes sense. People like to view it as a very slavish thing, but it actually makes sense. And the fact that it's not supposed, but after Taylor Swift, I was about to say that it's only for a certain period, maybe 6 years under, after the deal ends. But after Taylor Swift, people started revisiting those things and making them longer.
Yeah.
I know I've done it for some clients that, hey, this re-recording clause, this person, years after we are enjoying, because think about it, artists will go and tour and whatnot. The label, after they've recorded the album, that's the way that they make money, from licensing and sales. When now you have all these other streams of income. So yeah, you get some label clients saying, hey, revisit this re-recording restriction, maybe make it a bit longer after the deal ends. Yeah, because Taylor has started something here.
Yeah. And of course, many artists will follow suit.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, as they have.
Yeah.
Some of them. Yeah.
What is and of course you don't have to mention any names because I understand that this is what you do, and people's confidentiality is very important. But what are some of the most extreme cases that you've actually worked on in the South African music context?
Yeah. Yeah, I have to be careful in how I describe it so that it's not too obvious. Well, there's been an instance where I was acting for a label that was trying to enforce its agreement with a certain artist, and the artist was not hearing it. They just wanted to leave, and we had to do takedowns. Take the music down, the new music that they were recording, because they were infringing on the exclusive. Yeah. And the artist in question then approached the court to get the court to interdict the label I was acting for from doing that. And it became a back and forth like that. So takedowns have they can cause real problems, because you're telling someone that they can't now participate commercially without your participation as well, because you still have a deal with them. Yeah. So, and it's quite easy in the sense that the DSPs won't get involved. They'll say, "Oh, Yalwan, okay, let us take it down, sort it out yourselves."
Understandably.
Yeah. But it's a huge power in the hands of the one who is alleging infringement, because a judge doesn't have to preside over it. You can just fill out a form and the song goes down. The rest will happen in court. That time the artist might be losing, and not just the artist, the label as well. Both parties might be losing great commercial mileage, which they could have gotten if they were just still working together.
So tricky, hey?
Very.
Who won the case though?
Initially, it was the label, and then I think by that time I wasn't involved. The artist succeeded later, but I don't know the merits thereof, because at that time I wasn't involved anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hectic. Okay, cool. So this is the part I've been really looking forward to in terms of this conversation, because
DreamStream, a place to create yourself. Record video, music, and podcasts in our full-service studio. Record video, music, and podcasts in our full-service studio. DreamStream, a place to create your sound.
I'm going to give you some issues that have really happened, like factual issues, and I'd like to hear your opinion on them based on obviously like your knowledge, right? And you can tell me, can I say names?
No.
No, no names, no names. Okay, cool. All right, I'll respect that. Now, a South African group, right? They were going through a little bit of controversies. I don't want to get into too much detail because it's not about who they are. It's about the reality that some group members did not get their percentage from a sync deal that happened. This is like now a song that was huge years ago, right? And a sync deal can happen anytime, you know what I mean? But the reality is that out of all of the members, not everybody got their share of that money. How does something like that happen and how is it resolved?
So, you know why there's usually gaps with sync deals? The people who want to use the music usually just know the song they want, but they don't know the legalities around how to get the song. So they'll go to the primary performer,
Okay.
and say, hey, your song, we want to use your song. But in reality, music has many rights holders, especially if you consider the two copyrights. There could be rights holders from a composition point of view, there could be a right holder from a master point of view. So they'll just go to the main artist and say, hey, we want to use your song. And the artist will say, yeah, sure, use it. And he'll sign an agreement that says that he warrants that he has the right to do so, and that'll be it. And then the other rights holders will just see the song now being used on an ad and whatnot after the fact.
Ish.
You know.
And how is something like that resolved? Because I mean, obviously now they didn't give everybody the money.
Yeah, yeah. Look, they'll have a claim against the person, but usually when it's like that, you have leverage to incentivize even the people who are using the song to even them sorting the thing out, because now the ad is out, they've taken it out.
Yeah.
But you are here, the rights holder, you're saying compensate me and go get the money you've spent in excess from the person you had an agreement with. This is my song as well.
Yeah.
Either that or you take it down. That thing I was telling you about leverage, you must usually I threaten, I'll go to, if I'm acting for someone, of course, not in my personal capacity,
Yeah.
I'll go to the other rights holder who authorized it and say, listen, I'm going to go to the brand if you don't sort this out. I need visibility on how much you license the song for, and we already have the percentages. Just make my client whole. Failing which, I'm going to approach the brand directly and we're going to take the song down.
What role does the publisher play in a situation like that?
A big one, but problem is that not all writers are represented by the same publisher. So the publishers are usually going to come out swinging.
Ish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hectic one. All right. Now, what is happening right now in this era of Amapiano, right, is that there's a lot of interpolations, there's a lot of sampling happening, right? There was a specific song that was released, and perhaps maybe the family was like, man, how are we? Now, you can't just do that. And honestly, they can't just do that. You know what I mean? And the song had to be taken down, right? What happened in that situation? What is the right thing to do in that kind of situation? What agreements need to be done?
So you must first figure out what type of clearance you are, you are making. If I'm incorporating their recording, their original recording into mine, I need two clearances. I have to clear it from a composition point of view, and I have to clear it from a master's point of view because I'm using their sound recording, i.e. master.
Yeah.
But a lot of people you can actually avoid licensing the master by re-recording. It's coming back now, this re-recording thing.
Yeah.
So I can re-record my own version and avoid licensing the master because I've created my own master now. However, you can't avoid not getting a clearance from the writers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you have to make sure that you know who all the writers are. I mean, you can Google the stuff, go on DSPs, see who are the creditors, writers, and make absolutely sure that these are all the guys, and they all have to say yes, by the way.
Oh, snap. You can't even be like majority everybody
They
has to
all,
say yes.
which is why sometimes it's such a headache for people, because all those people have their own turnaround times and whatnot, and whenever you want to drop, you know, but you still have to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And then what happens in then a situation, because in what happened, they took the song down, right? And then when the song was re-released, it actually had the original audio of the original song.
Which means they had to some do the double licensing from a master's point of view, because they have taken that sound recording and incorporated into theirs.
Okay, and the owners or the copyright holders have the ability to be like, no, you're not allowed to re-record. You can only do that, for instance, or you can only put in the original vocals. Are they allowed to do something like that?
No, the original vocals is the original recording, you know. But most people won't want to take it down, especially if it's a hit. They'll just want to participate.
Yeah.
But now leverage. I keep saying leverage. The leverage has changed. Now I want everything.
Aish, 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 aish.
You know?
Because in one of the interviews that I actually did have on this platform, right, the artist's biggest song ever to date, he did not make a cent from it, right? But now the situation that also came up during our conversation was that, aish, like we asked for clearance. You know, we actually knocked on the door. We asked for clearance for over 6 months. And this artist was not actually coming out to say anything. It's about to be summertime in South Africa. The right thing needs to happen. They need to drop the song. And then they dropped the song anyway. You know, and obviously the song became big. But then the artist came back to be like, I want everything.
Exactly.
So in that situation, I mean, did they make the right decision?
No, they didn't. But I kind of get the practicality of you know, knocking on a door and people not answering. You know, clearance is not that, you know, I've been involved in clearances from time to time, and people just drag their feet, you know. It's not for them. Sometimes it's not even, you know, it's not even their main source of, you know, the type of use. You're probably nobody to them. They're going to treat your request much different to Taylor Swift knocking on their door.
Sure. Absolutely.
You know? So, yeah, I don't think they made the right choice. They ultimately paid for it. Problem is that what I see is that some artists tell themselves that they're going to make the money from bookings, which they will, but it's not the long money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah.
That is so hectic. Okay. That is really hectic because, I mean, do you think that some artists intentionally drag their feet to be like, no, man, like just to give that person a challenge, and then with the knowledge that when the song is a hit, I can just cash in?
I don't think so, because you can never predict where a hit is going to come from, really. You can never predict. I don't think it's intentional. It's just bad admin. You know, yeah, it's just bad admin. I'll come to this thing. Who is this guy? You know, yeah.
Your opinion on the two American rappers that that were dissing each other, and now the other one is taking the other one to court, or rather taking the record label to court. What is your opinion?
Those guys are American. We can talk about them.
Okay,
I don't represent them.
All right.
I wish I did.
Hey, man.
Yeah. Look, there isn't much facts, available facts on that matter. So there isn't much to go on. But if I had to make a guess, as a label, it's I need to make sure that I put you out there. And if it is in fact true what Drake is saying, that, you know, they compromised him in favor of the other artist, it could very well be breach of their agreement.
Absolutely.
So just from a bystander's point of view, and I'm shooting in the dark, I know, it probably just looks like he's trying to get out of his deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How would that play out?
Well, it depends what the breach clause says, and if in fact you know, they did act contrary to their mandate towards him as an artist. You know, even without seeing the agreement, we know that at the very least, the label's job is to put you out there. Once they do the opposite, it undermines the very heart of the agreement.
Sure.
You know, so yeah. If he can prove the breach, it will open the door for him to cancel the agreement. Yeah.
Smart move, I must say.
Yeah.
It's a pretty, if that's the case.
If that's the case, yeah.
Okay. All right. Last one. I think this one it was very popular. You know, it trended for quite some time. And you know, my opinion on this is that the reality is that record labels own masters, guys.
Yes.
You know, because really you're using state of the art equipment. Like they are really spending so much and investing in you ensuring to make a good product, right? And now this is a situation where this particular artist is basically enforcing what a record label could, saying that, guys, this is my equipment. You know, the honest truth is, yes, like even the electricity, guys, electricity is a real thing. You know, even food, you have to make sure that people are fed, right? And now there was a lot of controversy, I think, because it was that artist. What is your opinion on that matter?
Well, let's go to the basics. What does the law say? Copyright Act says that the owner is the person who commissions the work, the recording, and pays for it in money or money's worth.
I see.
Right? That's what the law says.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I always encourage artists not to fall back on what the Copyright Act says and have agreements that govern what must happen between yourselves. But in the absent those agreements, we have to default on what the law says, and that's what the law says. You know?
Okay, cool. So it's like if there is no proper agreement done, obviously the default is that law that you're speaking on.
Yep.
Tricky one.
Yeah.
Is the artist right?
You mean the artist who owns the? Yes, I just wouldn't put. I just wouldn't talk about the. Yeah, things like food and
Yes,
whatnot.
yes.
Let's focus on the recording. Who
Yes.
funded the recording, paid for it in money's worth, and so forth. Let's if we get those basics right, then the artist in the scenario you are describing is correct.
Okay, very, very interesting. What is one big case or situation locally or internationally that has really interested you? That really, like, you even wish that you were involved in terms of playing a role?
Jeez. You know what? I wish I was involved in the monumental deal where, I mean, we're seeing this gold rush of people selling copyrights and whatnot. We've been seeing it and whatnot. But Michael Jackson did this as early as, when he bought the Beatles. People don't realize how huge that was. And they call it the Beatles catalog, but it wasn't just the Beatles. It was a lot of artists. It's just that, the Beatles were one of the main people there, but it was many artists. A black guy brought that and, he sold it to another publisher and they co-owned it together as early as the 90s. We're seeing a gold rush of this happening now with corporations, but there's a black guy who did that.
Dude.
So to be part of that deal would have been monumental. I would have loved to be in the team advising him for that.
Right?
Yeah.
That is so cool. Okay. And before we wrap up, Gallo, right? There is a portion of Gallo that Black Coffee, I don't know if you bought all of it or just a particular portion. That is a very, very huge label. Under which, what is, does this mean that in a situation like that, like he basically owns everything that Gallo owns? How does it really work from a business perspective and the legalities of an actual record label being bought?
Well, I don't know the details about that particular situation, but a record label owns assets, and the assets are what? The sound recordings.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the copyright in the sound recordings. And copyright is easily transferable,
For sure.
Yeah, you can transfer it, without even... the artists have probably signed, an agreement that they know that at any time you can transfer the copyright in those sound recordings to a third party. I mean, look at these labels and how they've bought each other over and swallowed each other over the years.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we used to have a lot of labels back in the day, but now it's just, you know, the three majors.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's not a difficult thing at all.
Okay. All right, cool. What advice would you give to someone who's interested in exploring entertainment law? And what advice do you feel is the most important for artists to know?
Well, if someone wants to follow entertainment law, I would say I find that a lot of entertainment lawyers are either former musicians or they just love music, you know? Yeah. Obviously, I can't tell someone to love something. There are very well people that can come into this space without having a passion for music, which is fine.
Yeah.
But make sure that try and serve your articles at a firm dealing with intellectual property, so that you can at least understand the building blocks, the basics, of copyright, of trademarks, and so forth. Which is what I did. I was fortunate enough to serve my articles at a firm that does IP only.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, and then at least when you've done that, you'll be able. It will increase your chances of actually finding, because not all firms that do IP do entertainment law.
Yeah, that's true.
But then it'll increase your chances of finding a firm that does entertainment law, because entertainment law is essentially you're going to deal a lot with copyright law, trademark law, contract law. So it's an amalgamation of all these laws as applied in the entertainment sector.
I see. And then for artists?
Artists, make sure you understand the two copyrights. I mean, this is my this is my thing, because you'll be able to follow the money. If at the very least you can't differentiate between a master and a composition, those two copyrights, you won't be able to follow the money. Yeah. You won't be able to understand the societies that collect these monies, that, okay, from my composition, I know that I would have to go to Samra and Kapaso. From the master side, I know that I would have to speak to Sampra. It just helps you follow the money, and every contract that you have will speak to those two rights. I would say understanding those two copyrights, you're 70% of the way there.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming through, Bongani.
Sure.
Please come back.
I'd love
we'll
to.
Try again. We'll do it again in terms of time. But I feel like there's just so much to talk about.
Yeah.
One conversation is so informative. It's so insightful. However, it's still not enough.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to annoy you again.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate
Only a
it.
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
The one and only Bongani Mdakane. Thank you so much for tuning in, for listening in, for audio streaming, for watching. And if you'd like to record music, or perhaps you want to use the studio as well for your own podcast, all you need to do is send that important email. It is info@dreamstream.co.za. Don't forget to follow Music Politricks everywhere on the socials. TikTok, Instagram, X, everywhere. Okay? Kalina, Kenabusi, Baba Kulu, Baba Des, Bariki the Queen of Pitori, and Erona, we are out in. Awesome.
Hey, that was a good one.
Thank you so much. This is so interesting.